Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Each week, folks, we talk about what the message you want out there and who you want it to get to because it's crowded and loud out there. So go to the professionals at Oak City Tech, tell them what you're looking for, who you want to reach. They will help you do that in a very efficient, productive way. So go to oakcitytech.com, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning. Each week on Triangle BNI, we bring you a local small business success story. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle, Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. Each week, about 35 chapters and almost 520 members get together, and our goal is to help each other grow their business. And our local small business success story today is Donna Pruitt with Southern Trust Mortgage. Donna, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. Thank you for having me on. I'm doing great.
Glad to have you here. Don is a member of RDO2 Carry Connections. They meet every Monday morning at 8:30. You are fresh back from your meeting. If anybody wants to meet some cool small business owners and some good folks in the Cary area, we recommend you look for this chapter. And Donna, how was your meeting this morning?
It was fantastic. We had 5 to 6 guests that came today, so it was a really successful meeting. And I have been gone for a week on vacation, so it was really nice to go back and have our visitors there, welcoming them and finding out what other companies that we have in the Triangle.
Now, you guys are back in person. Where are you meeting?
We're meeting at Hope Church in Cary,
All right. Did you go to the big room or the small room upstairs?
small room.
Okay. All right. So the big room would be for Visitors Day. Uh,
Yes.
Nice folks over at Hope Community. I used to be in a chapter that met there on Thursday morning. So they got the coffee bar downstairs. They have goodies in the morning if you have a little sweet tooth or something. So, good place. Southern Trust Mortgage. Now, the word is that every house that has a sign up is sold within 2 minutes, and it's like $50 million over asking price and ridiculous stuff going on out there. What's it been like for you guys on the mortgage side the last 4, 5, or 6 months?
Well, the first step, of course, to qualify to make sure what you qualify for. So I'm the first person that they should be, or a mortgage lender should be the first person that you're going to see to make sure that you're looking at properties that you will qualify for. It's been very hectic. Frustration, I would say, with buyers that are making bids on homes and they're bidded they so many bids on the same home, sometimes 20 to 30 other offers are coming in. And that's just to me mind boggling for those agents out there because they have to present every offer. So it's it's just very frustrating for the buyers and the sellers because it's such a busy market. And what you'll see now, Mike, is you'll see signs that say coming soon. So obviously, when that house is no longer coming soon, there are going to be immediately numerous offers on that house.
One of the things I have learned in BNI, getting to know mortgage lenders and realtors as well, is to get qualified to understand what you can purchase instead of wasting everybody's time. If you can't afford a $400,000 house, quit looking in that range. But there's a difference between a pre-qualified and a approved letter, or there's a couple different letters people can get, right?
Yes, sir. You can have a pre-qualification letter or a pre-approval letter. And when you work with someone at Southern Trust Mortgage, we have what we call priority approval. And what that means to realtors and buyers and sellers is that when I give you a priority approval letter, that is coming from the underwriter and that is confirming that the credit has been approved. And then we're halfway through the process. This is very important in the market that we're in now. Just like you said, Mike, you would not go looking for a Corvette if your budget would only allow you to buy, a Prism. There's a huge difference there. Same thing with real estate. Um, The priority approval letter, we verify income, we verify assets. If there's any red flags whatsoever during the process, this is when the red flags will come out. So I am honored to be able to have this opportunity to offer this to my clients because it makes the process so much easier and there's no questioning, will we have red flags in underwriting?
And the other thing that does for the potential buyer is it gets them into a bidding process that they can be in, so they're not wasting anybody's time and they don't get disappointed by, "Oh, we thought we could." It's actually in their best interest to have that. So when they show their realtor and the seller's realtor, "Hey, look, we're good for, 380,000 bucks." It kinda makes everybody's job a little bit easier as far as, acknowledging them as a potential buyer.
It's funny you would say that, Mike, because I just had this happen a couple of weeks ago. I had a client win a bid because of that priority approval letter because there's no second guessing. It's approved, the credit's approved, the underwriter's blessed the credit. So now we're just waiting on that property to have the same results. Because if you're not familiar with the mortgage process, the credit's approved and property has to be approved as well. So there's two parts, the credit and the property. So you're like I said earlier, you're halfway through the process. Realtors love this option because it does the red flags. You hardly ever have well, you never have a red flag come up during the middle of the process because you have dealt with those up front. And we do underwrite this on a to be determined property. So it's not specifically to a specific property. It's specifically to that credit that buyer is applying for. So it's just everyone in this process appreciates having that letter.
How long is that letter good for?
The letter's good for 120 days. And the reason I say 120 days is because your credit report will expire in 120 days. So we simply repull credit and make sure nothing's changed. It's identical to when we first underwrote the file. If it does change, that's nothing to worry about. We just address what's changed and make sure we can move on with what we already have in hand.
And we've had, realtors on the show, and I've heard the horror stories. I'm sure I don't wanna use the word lecture, but I'm sure you strongly recommend to those clients, "Don't go buy anything right now."
I do not lecture them. I beg them. I beg them, do not, because you can see all the post on Facebook. You can see what people post, and it's reality. People will go and buy BMWs and increase their debt by $600 to $700 a month, and that could cost them that pre-approval, or the priority approval.
Yeah, you buy the BMW after you've closed on the house. That's when you go buy something, but I'm sure in all because you've been doing this for, you've been in the mortgage industry since 2002. I'm sure you've seen some people that I guess thought they were doing the right thing, maybe trying to get a credit card to pay off some debt or stuff like that, that just probably came back to haunt them, didn't it?
It did. I'll never forget when I first started back. It was 2001. I had a client, young man, was going to buy. It was a manufactured home, and he thought he was all set. He was good to go. We get to the closing table, and this was before the fall of the market, and he switched jobs. Lo and
Oh.
behold, he thought because he had another job doing the same thing, he would be okay. But the problem was he was making less money an hour. So we had to go back in. We switched it from back in 2001, arms were really big. So we switched it from fixed rate to an arm, reducing that debt, and we was able to get him closed. But in today's world with the TRID, you would not be able to close the same day after finding out this information because you have to redisclose, and then you have to wait 3 days. So there's timelines and to stay in compliance. If you do not follow those timelines, you will not close that loan. So you have to keep every part of the process moving, and you have to make sure you stay in compliance because we are held to a upper standard now since the fall of the market.
The ARM is, for those people that don't know, is an adjustable rate mortgage. Are those still available these days?
We have, for instance, in construction, the perm loans, you'll see really niche items that you would go ahead and you would feel comfortable about doing. It's a case by case base. We do have one in particular arm that we offer at Southern Trust. You can take your loan to value to 95%, no MI, and you can fall into what we call jumbo um, part of a loan, but that's whenever your sales price is over 500. It changed. It's 548, 250. So anytime your loan amount is over that amount, it becomes a jumbo loan. And we can go up to $729,000 on that loan. So you could get a jumbo loan with no MI and go all the way to 95% for qualified applicants. There's some special guidelines that you have to follow in order to qualify for that loan. And you can also fall underneath that jumbo loan amount and go down to 375.
You had mentioned, new builds and new construction. Oh, and again, I've learned this from BNI as well, getting to know realtors and mortgage lenders like yourself, that I guess we're all under the assumption that we have to take all the deals that the builders offer us because we're buying their house, and I'm not, disrespecting any builder here, but they don't have to take all those deals, do they?
No, they do not, Mike. Thank you for bringing that up. Sometimes I have a client that they've done their due diligence. They've been pre-approved through priority approval. They go out to one of these large builders neighborhoods and they want them to use their lender and they want them to use their attorney. That is totally up to you. You will not get the incentives that they are offering, but sometimes that incentive may not make sense and there's loopholes to that. So it's always nice to go back to the lender that spent that time with you and have you pre-approved to make sure that we can't compete with that builder. Sometimes I can win, sometimes I can. It's a case by case basis.
Along with being licensed in North Carolina, you are licensed in 8 other states. Is that paperwork? Do you have to test in every state? How does that happen?
Well, because I'm with Southern Trust Mortgage, we have that opportunity. The only other state that you have to have your own personal license to work if you have an office is South Carolina. South Carolina and North Carolina are pretty much on the same level. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but if you have to be licensed in a state, North Carolina is usually the toughest state to get your license.
We've heard that from a number of industries, yes.
Yes, yes. So, and that is very true. And South Carolina tends to mimic North Carolina. So you have to have your license in South Carolina and North Carolina as individuals. I have the opportunity to have a good friend of mine in Charleston, South Carolina. So I'm not licensed in South Carolina, but I can certainly send them to a loan officer with Southern Trust Mortgage that would take excellent care of them.
Do you remember the first time you had to take that test?
Yes.
And how was it?
It was a lot. The federal test was easier than the state test. And
Oh,
I can tell you from experience, North Carolina is tough when you go to take that mortgage license. So I was that was a milestone in my life when I was able to take that test and know that I was going to be okay. Because when I started in 2001, I was grandfathered in because I started with Countrywide Home Loans. I was under Countrywide, and we did not have to be tested. So you have to go through and you have to do compliance and keep up with your hours, just like realtors do during the year. Then in 2010, anyone that was grandfathered in had to take the test. So I was a producing mortgage lender and I was studying for the state and federal testing. So my advice to anyone that goes through that has to study and prepare, get a professional that's been through it so we can help you understand. It's just truly about the questions. They're going to trick you up. So you have to read that question, But then you have to be so careful not to stay so long on that one question that you use up your time on that one question. So if you truly study and do what your due diligence, and you go in there with a mindset, I've got this, you'll do fine. You just have to trust your instinct.
Did you get the results on the spot there?
You did. I did.
Alright. When I was living in Florida before we moved back here, I was a business broker, so I had to take the Florida real estate license test down there. And, first of all, are you in general a good test taker?
I hate testing.
I didn't ask you that. I said, "Are you good at it?"
I don't think I'm good at it, but what I found as I'm older, as you can tell, I have some age, is that if you trust and believe in yourself, I can say that now, but in school I was intimidated by testing. But as you mature, you learn that it's not that intimidating as long as you do your due diligence and you study and you prepare and you treat it as a profession.
So the test I took was I think it was in about 2000 early 2007, and I graduated college in '83, so I hadn't taken a test in a long time. So I studied, and I mean, I studied a lot. That was a hard test, and you take it online, and then you finish the last question, you hit submit, and then you walk out, and of course, like your test, they get the answers immediately, and I walked out in the lobby, and this nice young lady said, "Sir, can you come with me?" And I'm like, "Dang, I just failed it because I know they don't say that to people that pass." So she called me in a room, said, "Congratulations, you passed." I'm like, "You gotta do that better." You scared the hell out of me.
I know. I was more nervous to hit submit
Yeah.
and finalize it, because I studied. We went through numerous training sessions. At that time, I was with Starkey Mortgage, and it was a lot. It was a lot of information. I mean, I still have the books, and this is how thick the study material was for that test because it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still have it because I was so proud of having those license.
Yeah, I was pleased to get it, but when she said, "Can you come with me?" I'm like, "Oh, man, I flunked it." And and you spend that much time studying, which was easily probably 2.5 or 3 months, may not have been that long, but it was at least a good 6 weeks, I know that.
Yes.
And it's like, "Man, I don't wanna study and take this again." And
That
then
would be devastating.
and once I passed, I didn't care what I passed with, I just wanna know I passed. I'm a big fan of pass-fail tests because if all I need is 74, I don't care if I got 75, I got the diploma. So I got
You know what? I don't even remember what my score was. All I know is I passed. When
yeah,
I saw pass,
yeah, yeah,
I had to ask them, I don't even know what the score was. And I still to this day,
yeah,
I have no idea.
and I didn't care. I just
So,
happy they printed out the certificate. I'm like, "Sweet, I'm moving on." That was a nice ride home. So we are here with Donna Pruitt, Southern Trust Mortgage. Donna's in RDO2, Cary Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30 a.m. So if you're a morning person in the Cary area, wonderful group to meet. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Folks, one of the things we talk about is you don't own all your social media. You might think you do, but somebody else owns your social media. If Facebook wants to shut you down, they can. If LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you're on, I'm sure 8 new ones are being invented right now as we speak, but they own that so they can shut you down. If you own your email list, nobody can bother you because you own those names, you've collected those names, and it's people that want to hear from you. So go to professionals like Oak City Tech, tell them what you're looking for. I know they'll be able to help you. All right, Donna. So one of the cool things we share, first of all, is my love of your accent. So where are you originally from?
I grew up in High Point, and I've lived all my life in North Carolina.
All right. Well, dig the accent. Always have, always will. Nothing beats a Southern accent. And
Well,
we
you know what's funny, Mike, is I live in Holly Springs, and the neighborhood I live in, I met someone at an event at our clubhouse, and they said, "Are you originally from North Carolina?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a native." And they said, "That's unheard of. You're
yeah,
the only person I think that lives in the
yeah.
neighborhood." And I thought that was I'm in a minority,
Mhm.
but because I grew up in the state that everyone's moving to.
Yes.
So yeah,
And
and
I'm
I do have a
yeah.
Southern accent.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm a hybrid because we moved here in '73. I moved away in '79, moved back in 2009. So Raleigh's always been my home. I moved here when I was 12. It's always been my home, always will be. So when people go, "Are you from Raleigh?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." So, but I'm a hybrid. But yeah, there are not many born and bred folks here. Our good
What's funny, Mike, is I moved to North Raleigh in 1990 as a public speaker. And I spoke to IBM
Mhm.
and the big companies over at RTP. So I was intimidated with my Southern accent and honestly thought about because I wanted to be the best I could be as a public speaker. And I thought, well, they're not getting the message on crime prevention is what I did then. And I thought maybe I should go to a speech therapist. And then what I found out is my trainer said, I think you need to ask somebody about that. So I started asking people, is my accent too Southern, whatever. And they said, no, we love it. They felt like they was able to communicate with someone that lives here in this area that has always been here all their life. So it's not always what you think.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you. I enjoy a Southern accent, Texas accent, Midwest. New York's kind of tough. You get Boston, New York, Philly up there. We've had some people on the show and we've laughed about that before, but I don't, I don't mind an accent as long as the content's good and they know
Absolutely.
if nobody speaks with any kind of accent or everybody talks the same, that's bored me to death. So, did you enjoy the public speaking and the training?
I did enjoy public speaking. Um, It was bittersweet. I had a story to tell, and I was able to tell the story and get the word out that, it could happen to you. But what was so great about it is you could, as a survivor, you can help people be motivated to have options on how to protect themselves. So it was very meaningful to me.
I would imagine on subject matter like that, you've got people in the room that are, I don't want to use the phrase happy to hear from you, but probably getting great comfort knowing they're not the only one that that's happened to.
Absolutely. And it can happen to anyone at any time. You never know. So you have to be prepared. So the program that I would teach would train you and help you to be prepared with everyday life situations. You start your day out, you go to work, you go shopping, you come home, you want all those places you want to be the highest risk possible to avoid being a victim of a crime.
Then how did you get into the mortgage world? That does not sound like a smooth, easy, natural transition.
When I left public speaking, I went to work for the leaf industry in Wake Forest. I was a sold cars. Then I moved to a sales manager. And of course, by the time I left the car industry, I was a jack of all trades. I could sit at any seat and be able to fill in for someone wasn't there. And when I was at Johnson Lexus, I was billing out a gentleman that purchased a new Lexus, and he was a regional manager for Countrywide Home Loans. And he sat in my office, and he paid cash, and everyone was like, "What is taking so long in there?" And what he was doing is he was recruiting me. So the following week, I went to and met with the manager in the Cary office, and a couple weeks later, I became a lender. So it was a great move for me. I love what I do. I love helping people understand this process because it can be very confusing. And one of the things I can tell you if you're listening and you're going through this process, if you send a document in, I can't say this enough, make sure we can read all four corners from the top to the bottom and it's clear because we'll have to ask you for that. That's one of the most
Yeah.
frustrating situations that I have with clients. They just cannot understand that it's not coming over to me clear. So, but
Now,
that's how I ended up with the mortgage industry.
so let's go back to the guy buying the Lexus. In between $100 bills, he would ask you a question to recruit you. Is that how that went?
Yeah. He said, "You would be great in the mortgage industry." And I was like, "You're sitting here in my current position." And then, he was a good salesman. He sold me on it. And the idea of being able to not be at a dealership till 10 or 11 o'clock at night on Saturday and during the week that won me over.
Did
and
he
I've not regretted it.
did he bring cash or write a check?
He brought a check.
Okay. What was the car worth back then?
It was a certified check. He had called the dealership ahead of time and went to his bank
Yeah.
and had that certified check.
What did a Lexus go for back then?
Oh, I think the one he purchased, if I can remember correctly, it was 80 some $1,000.
Oh, geez. Good for him. Did
Yeah.
he own the mortgage? Did he own Countrywide? Or he was a regional guy, right?
You would think he was a regional
Yeah.
manager, so
Alright, well, business was good back then, right?
he recruited me.
And I've not
Everywhere he went, I'm sure he recruited people.
and I've not heard Countrywide's name in a long time.
Well, you probably won't anymore.
No,
So
I know that, yeah. Alright, so let's go back to the Southern accent. Help me understand something here. It's difficult sometimes for me to defend my kind, namely males, who don't like to be called hun or sweetie. But when I go to a restaurant or I'm anywhere in public and I ask somebody something and they say, "Oh, sure, sweetie, it's this way," I'm tickled pink. That has never bothered me. Yet I meet more guys that bothers. I'm like, why? She's not hitting on you. That's what we do in the South. That's our way of saying welcome, and I'm happy to help you.
well, I had to be careful with that because coming from the South, our Southern hospitality is we want everybody to be happy.
Mhm.
So I had to really work on that. That is one thing I had to avoid in a public, when you're in a business situation, you have to be careful because it could offend some people
Mhm.
and it has in the past. So you have to learn when you can't use those terms.
And I get that when you're at a closing table and you're selling, $400,000 houses being changed hands. I get that. But when I'm in Walmart or Bojangles or Food Lion, man, I love living in the South just to hear that. And I just don't understand. I'm sure it bothers people and I hate to dismiss that, but that's our term of affection right there.
It really is. And sometimes it happens automatically.
Mm.
It's just a part of my life. It's been there since I could talk. I can't ever remember not having the slang, "Hey hun, how
Yeah.
you doing?" Yeah.
Yep, it's one of those things that I'm sure that I do things that others go like, "Why does that bother you?" So I say that, uh, trying to be fair to everybody, but I've just never gotten that one, but that's how I grew up, and I've always thought nothing of it, so I enjoy it. So whoever's out there listening, if they ever see me, you can say that all you want. I love the South. You and I are also grandparents. So you have 2 grandsons, Brady and Emery?
I have two grandsons, Brady and Emery. Brady is 10 and Emery is 13 going on 25. He'll be
Yep.
14 in September. And what's amazing to me is these kids nowadays, he'll turn 14 in September and by January, I'm almost 15.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, don't rush your life. Trust me, take it from me. You want every moment to count. So, but I remember those days as well.
Now, and my grandson Oliver just turned 3, so I'm loving that age. I when I prior to each show, I professionally stalk my guests. Just Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, just, try and find some topics to talk about other than business because, business sometimes people want to hear the good stories. And I saw a post you had on Facebook, and I didn't get the date on it, but it was you and the boys on a wave runner, and one of them was asleep.
It was the Sea-Doo. It was a jet ski,
Jet ski,
Sea-Doo.
okay.
Brady, the 10-year-old, this was probably several years ago, and every time he would get on the jet ski, he would fall asleep. So the older brother in the back would be holding him on. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever been the driver and you've got two kids on there and they're sitting up straight, it can be a challenge to drive on the waterway. But with one asleep, falling over every 2 minutes, and you're scared they're going to fall off, it was a challenge. But we get a kick out of that. It was so funny because he would be out like a light. Had no idea where he was or what he was doing.
Well, his big brother was way better than my little brother's big brother was because 'cause I'd have let my brother just fall right in the water. Wouldn't have
Well, we
thought
couldn't
twice
do
about it.
that, but at the end of the day, it was very difficult when you've got your you have to balance. It's kind of like riding a motorcycle. You still have to balance.
Yeah.
But it was, I guess you could see how that set him into a deep sleep.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it was a funny picture. You just got back from the beach. Do you have the lot or the house picked out for where you will retire at the beach?
I'm looking now. I'm
Uh,
trying to decide. Yeah, we just came back from the beach, and I do have two grandsons, and I also have four step grandkids that we vacation together. So I had four grandkids and four adults with me last week at the beach, and we had an excellent family vacation. It was awesome.
Very nice, and what do they call you?
Nana.
Ah, by your choice, or did one of them name you?
That was my choice.
Okay, I like that. Yeah,
They
my
they know they know I was, in a store with Caroline, one of my granddaughters, and a lady said, "You look just like your grandmother," and she said, "That's not my grandmother, that's my Nana."
yeah.
My grandmother's over in Nightdale.
It's funny you say that because our oldest son, my mom's name was Patty, and she went by the name Pally because my dad would call her that for years, "Hey, Pally," and so when our oldest son, Travis, was born, they started calling her Pally, which she loved because there were no other Pallies that she knew of. And my Travis one day, somebody said he was 5 maybe, and they pointed to my mom, who was probably 10 or 15 steps away, and he said, "Is that your grandmother?" And he goes, "No, that's my Pally." And she loved telling that story because the same thing, they have a grandmother in Texas, so it's funny the same
Yeah.
way, which again, kids, there was a show, I think kids say the darndest things, they really do, but they're just brutally honest. And if adults would be that way, there would be a lot more things settled and
Yes.
done, and we could move off of other things. But anyways, I digress. But that's funny. I bet you kind of chuckled when she said that. No,
I
that's my
loved it.
nana.
I
Yep.
loved it. I really did.
Is it easier for you to remember your social security number or your NMLS number?
Either one.
Okay. Are these so you're in the 85,000 of numbers. Do they just the next number up is the next person to get their license?
That's correct. So, yeah, so you can tell how soon
Oh,
I was one of the very first 80, yeah, 85 to 85 266.
yep,
So you better
exactly.
not say my social security number on broadcast though.
No, I couldn't find that, but believe me, I looked. Is your middle name Francine? Okay, then that's not you then. Okay, I did find one. I was gonna say, is that a family name or not? But yeah, a lot of Donna Pruitt's came up. Let me say, I enjoy because you always get the nugget on like the fifth page of Google. That's where, but you got to stay dedicated to that, which is where I found this about you, Donna. Back in 2018, you answered a question on Alignable. You remember doing that about where you find your clients, and you had mentioned social media and past clients is where you find new clients. Does that st-
Absolutely. The best referral I can get is from a client that I've worked with in the past. And I've been in this industry over 20 years. And to be honest with you, I have people coming back that I can't remember their name and I have to go look them up because 20 years ago, so many people. But I, I am proud of myself when I have someone come back or someone calls me and says, such and such referred me to you. And that means I did what I was supposed to do. And I advised that client and walked them through a process. And, it can get heated during the process. Somebody gets frustrated and it has nothing to do with me, but that's why I'm there to advise them. And I'm their go between that processor or that underwriter. And if something comes up, and it'll come up, once in a while you have things that come up on fraud guard reports. We never used to have fraud guard like we have now. And last week I had a client that had a foreclosure and do a deed in lieu of foreclosure for health reasons. So, things like this, it wasn't on a credit, it was on the fraud guard. And what you have to do is you just address it and you try to figure out, is this going to call the deal or can we work it out? And working with Southern Trust Mortgage, we're a common sense mortgage lender. And that's what I love so much about Southern Trust is we care about the people. It's not just paperwork. We have people involved, and their families need to go to a new home because they've sold the home or they're first time home buyers. You make it the best process you can. And when an issue comes up, you deal with it with care and you advise the best you can. So that's what's important about being a mortgage lender is making sure that client understands the process.
And through the process, you're probably more, depending on where you are in the process, you're more counselor than mortgage lender, aren't you?
Oh, Lord. I'm a marriage counselor. I've had Zoom meetings and had to get the husband and the wife on the same page. And you, you listen, you know everything about that person by the time you close. Everything.
And, you don't have to mention names, you don't have to acknowledge if you've come across this before, but there's been a mortgage lender on the show before that actually ran a report on on it was a husband-wife and ran the credit reports and everything like that and found out that the husband had a kid from
Yeah.
another woman that the wife didn't know about. And
Yeah.
she sat down and said, "This is gonna be uncomfortable for all of us right now." Tell me you found some good stuff in the past. Hopefully, that didn't wreck anything, but have you had some funny moments?
Oh, let's see. I've had so many. It's just really hard to pull one out of the hat. That you got. I should have thought about this a little bit. What's something? I'll tell you something that happened, and this is not funny, but this is why it's so important to choose someone that can advise you and move you along the process. But in this industry, what you find is you find egos in this industry. And, because I had my past career was being in the car business, I used to train my salesmen, don't judge a book by its color because you never know. So you treat everyone the same, no matter how they come in dressed. And I had this client that had gone to 3 different banks in Harnett County. Nobody would give them the time of day. The agent sent them to me to I was with Southern Trust Mortgage at the time. Come to find out, the man he worked in, he was blue collar worker, did not care about if his shirt was starched. He was just he's come as I am. That's how he is. The man had over 800 credit scores. They had 20% to put down. They had been living in a single wide trailer that had been condemned, and they were desperate to find a new. He was desperate to find a new home to move in for his family, knowing he could do this because he had good credit and he had saved enough money, but no one would talk to him. So I took them under my wing and they bought a ranch style home, brick. You would have thought it was a mansion. I don't even think it was over $200,000. And they will be clients of mine forever just because I took the time to look at the whole picture. You can't judge a book by its color. You have to treat everyone the same. That's my motto.
Yeah, I had a boss years ago in Atlanta that just preached to me all the time. Because he always walked around with his tie or his top button unbuttoned on his shirt because we had to wear a coat and tie back then. And I'm like, "You gonna button up before the meeting?" He goes, "Nah, always let them underestimate you." And I thought, you
Yeah,
know what? That's good stuff. And if you look at the the wealthy people, because there's rich people and then there's wealthy, all right? And as who said that one time? Charles Barkley was talking. We were talking about NBA, or I was listening to show, not me and him, listening to the show he was on, and he was talking about how rich the players are. And somebody mentioned, "Oh yeah, they're pretty wealthy." He goes, "No, no, no. Let me explain to you wealth versus rich." And he mentioned a current basketball player. He goes, "Now that guy's rich, but Oprah's wealthy." So, which
I
I
know
get.
exactly what you're talking about.
And the wealthy people, they generally don't spend that $800,000 on that new car. Now the new rich guy will. And you see that's why you see these old retired guys driving around a beat up truck and again, back to your guy, they don't care and they can probably walk in and plunk down more money than most of the new rich guys, young guys walking around.
Well, I have NFL football players as clients, and you'd be surprised to how many I've had to put in credit counseling because
Oh yeah. Yep.
they just did not know how to manage that money. It
Yep.
was just so much at one time, you know. So
Yep. Did you want to say something, Em?
Yeah, I was just gonna say when back in the 70s, I was working here at the local garage, and the owner was a Greek guy who was very simple, but he had money, and he went to buy a farm, and he took off like around 11 o'clock or whatever in his dirty mechanics clothes with grease all over. And I said, "Do you want to change?" He said, "Nah." And he went to talk with the mortgage person. And he came back and I said, "So?" He said, "Yeah, it went okay." I said, "Why did you go like this?" He said, they're not, they're not looking at my clothes. They want to see that I have the money. I mean, if they're looking at my clothes, then I can look like I'm a
Yeah,
$1 million and I
yeah.
don't have a penny.
Yep.
But you're
You can
right.
look like a million and not have any money and not qualify as a
Right.
millionaire.
Oh, God,
Exactly.
you've seen those. Yeah, and it's always troublesome, the phrase "keeping up with the Joneses" because they may have the bigger house and the 2 Lexus cars in the driveway, and they're probably mortgaged to the hill.
Yeah.
And you just always everybody needs to be careful on what you see and what because generally we perceive that somebody's always doing better than we are just because. It's like, not always the case. So I'm glad that you take that approach because you're right. You never know who's walking in
Never
that door
know.
and what they got till you get into it. So
All this man wanted was a safe home for his family to live in.
yeah.
So
Yep. And nothing wrong with that. Word has it you used to own an electric company.
my ex-husband and I had electrical company in Garner.
All right. How'd you like that?
It paid the bills and it helped pay the bills. And I was fortunate that my mortgage industry took off because I was able to pay the household bills while we built that company and put the money directly back into the company. So it worked hand in hand.
All right.
I paid the bills with the mortgage money coming in, and we built the electrical company. We ended up starting another business. We owned rental properties. So it worked very well for us.
Do
Worked
you
very
still
well.
have either of those businesses?
No,
Does anybody?
yeah. Well, I was bought out of half of each one of them.
Did you negotiate well, Donna?
I did negotiate well.
Good for you. I sense that there were very short conversations with, "No, boys, here's what I'm taking. Now what I want, here's what I'm taking," right?
Yeah. And you know what's interesting is when you have an attorney nowadays, you have to know what you want
Mhm.
because they can't really tell you, well, this is what you should say, or this. I went in and I'm not sure, but I'm not sure how other people do it, but I knew what I wanted.
Mhm.
And I knew that I had worked so hard in my lifetime and I wasn't walking away with nothing, you
Well, and
know.
you have to be prepared to walk away, and that's when you negotiate when you have leverage is when you're willing to walk away. I was reminded of this usually when I talk to realtors and mortgage lenders. My brother was buying I think it's the house he's in now. So this would have been 15, 16 years ago. And he was at the closing table with the house they were selling, and everything was agreed upon until they got the table, and then this old boy that was buying the house said, "Oh, hang on a sec, about" I mentioned the gutters or the siding or something like that, and my brother just got up. He didn't say a word, he just got up, started walking out the door, and they're like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm not negotiating. We agreed on all this." And the guy goes, "Okay, okay, okay, sit down."
Yeah,
And I got 10 minutes further down the road, and sure enough, he wanted to negotiate again. My brother went to stand up, the guy goes, all right, I'll sign."
forget it.
So
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because in today's world, you have due diligence period.
mhm,
So that eliminates that. And
yep.
that sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad, but we just need to make sure we have enough due diligence period to get everything together.
Yeah, but when you're negotiating, if you're be prepared to walk away. You
Oh, yeah.
generally
You have to be prepared to walk away.
yeah, you'll generally I think your odds are better at getting what you want if you're prepared to walk away,
Mhm.
than if you sit there and go, "Okay, I'll take, $30,000 less." But, yeah, so if
Right.
you that's very powerful when you stand up to walk out of a room, whether you're bluffing or not.
Oh, yeah.
My brother was not bluffing because he woulda walked away, and
Right.
I knew that. Yeah, sometimes, it's a good bluff, but be prepared to walk away, and you generally things will turn out your way. Donna Pruitt, Southern Trust Mortgage, thank you very much today, folks. If you need somebody that's gonna take care of you and get you what you need to make sure you can get what you want, please contact Donna. Well, her phone number's been up, during the show the whole time. What's the website for you, Donna? Is there
Uh,
one?
www.southerntrust/Donna-Pruitt.
All
takes
right.
you directly to my website.
There you go. All right. Donna Pruitt at Southern Trust Mortgage. She's in RDO2, Carry Connections. They meet Monday mornings at 8:30. Donna, enjoyed it today. Glad you could make the show.
Thank you, Mike, for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we'll see everybody next time on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.